Hello everyone and welcome back to Read and Learn English. Today we are going to read a beautiful and meaningful story called The Robot Who Learned to Love. This is a simple English story for A1 to A2 learners. It will help you improve your reading, listening, and vocabulary. While you listen, try to notice new words. Listen carefully to the pronunciation. You can pause the video and repeat after me to practice speaking. This story is not only about a robot. It is about kindness, friendship, and learning to care about others. Are you ready? Let's begin our story. The Cold Robot. In a big city full of tall buildings and busy streets, a robot lived and worked every day. The city was always loud. Cars moved quickly on the roads. People walked fast to their offices. Lights were bright at night, and the sky was never very dark. In this busy place, the robot did not rest. It worked all the time. The robot worked in a large factory in the center of the city. The factory made small machines and tools. Every morning, the robot turned on at exactly 8 o'clock. It checked the machines. It fixed broken parts. It carried heavy boxes. It never made mistakes. The people in the factory said, "This robot is very smart. It works very well." The robot could count numbers very fast. It could solve problems in seconds. It could remember many instructions. It understood commands like, "Move this box," or "Fix this machine." It followed every order perfectly. The boss of the factory was very happy with the robot's work. But there was something the robot did not understand. When people finished their work, they talked to each other. They laughed together. Sometimes they shared food. Sometimes one worker helped another worker who was tired. When someone helped them, they smiled and said, "Thank you." The robot heard these words every day. "Thank you. Thank you for your help. You are so kind." The robot saved these words in its memory. It knew the sound of the words. It knew how to spell them, but it did not understand their meaning. One day, a worker dropped a heavy box. The robot quickly picked it up and put it back on the table. The worker smiled and said, "Thank you, my friend." The robot stopped for a moment. Friend? The robot searched its system for the meaning of that word. It found a simple definition. A friend is a person you like and trust. But the robot did not understand what it meant to like someone. It did not understand what it meant to trust someone. These were not numbers. These were not clear instructions. They were feelings. The robot did not have feelings. It did not feel happy when someone smiled. It did not feel sad when someone cried. Its heart was made of metal and wires. It did not feel warm or cold inside. It only worked. It only followed commands. At night, when the factory became quiet and the lights turned off, the robot stood alone in the dark room. The other workers went home to their families. They went home to people who loved them. The robot stayed in the factory. It was never tired. It was never bored. But it was always alone. The robot looked out of the factory window at the big city. It saw people walking together under the streetlights. Some people were holding hands. Some people were talking and laughing. The robot watched them carefully. It wanted to understand. What is love? What is kindness? Why do people smile when they say, "Thank you"? The robot was very smart. It could understand machines. It could understand numbers. But it could not understand the human heart. Inside its metal body, everything worked perfectly. But inside its empty space, there was something missing. The robot did not know it yet, but this was the beginning of a new question in its mind, and that question would slowly change its life. The meeting, a kind human. One afternoon, the factory was quieter than usual. Many workers had already gone home. The sun was low in the sky, and soft orange light came through the windows. The robot was finishing its last task for the day. It was checking the machines one by one. Suddenly, it heard a small voice. "Hello?" The robot turned around. At the door of the factory stood a young child. The child looked about 8 years old. He was small and thin with curious eyes. He did not look afraid. He looked interested. The robot walked toward him. "This is a work area," the robot said in its clear metal voice. "It may be dangerous." The child stepped inside slowly. He looked up at the tall robot and smiled. "I'm not scared," the child said. "You're the robot who works here, right?" "Yes," the robot answered. "I am the factory robot. I work every day." The child walked closer. He looked at the robot's hands made of metal and wires. "You work very hard," the child said kindly. "I see you from outside sometimes." The robot stopped moving for a second. No one had ever said that before. "Work is my function," the robot replied. The child laughed softly. "You talk like a book," he said. "Do you ever rest?" "I do not need rest," the robot answered. "I do not feel tired." The child looked at the robot carefully. Then he said something different. "Do you feel lonely?" The robot paused again. It searched for the word lonely. It found the meaning. "Feeling sad because you are alone." "I am alone at night," the robot said, "but I do not feel sad." The child's face became gentle. He gave the robot a warm smile. "That's okay," he said softly. "Maybe you just don't know the feeling yet." The robot looked at the child's smile. It watched how the corners of his mouth moved up. It noticed the light in his eyes. It saved the image in its memory. Then something strange happened. Inside its metal body, the robot felt something new. It was not pain. It was not a system error. It was not heat from the machines. It felt warm. The robot moved its hand to its chest. "System check," it said quietly. All systems were normal. But the strange feeling stayed. The child stepped closer and touched the robot's metal hand. His hand was small and soft. "You helped my father last week," the child said. He dropped a heavy box. You picked it up quickly. "Thank you." Again, that word. "Thank you." The robot looked down at the child's hand holding its fingers. "I completed my task," the robot answered. The child shook his head gently. "No," he said. "You helped him. That was kind." Kind. The robot searched for the word. Kind. Being nice and caring to others. Caring. Another word about feelings. The warm sensation inside the robot grew a little stronger. It did not understand it. It could not measure it. There was no number for it. "I do not understand," the robot said. "Why are you smiling at me?" The child smiled even more. "Because I like you," he said simply. "You are not just a machine. You help people." The robot became very still. "Like you. Help people." The words moved inside its system, but not like normal data. They did not feel cold and clear. They felt soft and bright. The robot did not know what was happening. It felt confused. It tried to explain the strange new feeling, but it could not find the right words. "I am confused," the robot finally said. "That's okay," the child replied kindly. "New feelings can be confusing." The factory was quiet. The orange light from the sunset made the room look soft and warm. The robot stood there with the child, holding his small hand. For the first time in its life, the robot did not think about work. It thought about the smile. It thought about the word kind. and deep inside its metal heart, the strange warm feeling stayed. The robot did not understand it yet, but something had changed. Learning about emotions. The next day, the child came back to the factory after school. The robot was waiting near the window. It did not know why it was waiting, but it was. When it saw the child walking toward the door, the strange warm feeling came back again. "Hello," the child said with a bright smile. "Hello," the robot replied. "I have questions." The child laughed softly. "You sound very serious. What do you want to know?" The robot looked at him carefully. "Yesterday you said I was kind. You said you like me. I do not understand these feelings. Can you explain them?" The child sat down on a wooden box and thought for a moment. "Okay," he said. "Let's start with love." The robot saved the word in its system again. Love, the child continued slowly, means caring for someone. When you love someone, you want them to be safe and happy. "Caring?" the robot asked. "Yes," the child said. "Care means you think about someone. You want to help them. You do not want them to feel sad." The robot processed the information. "Love means caring for someone," it repeated. "Yes," the child said. "And love also means helping without asking for money. You help because you want to, not because you have to." The robot stopped moving. "I help because it is my work," it said. The child nodded. "That's true, but sometimes people help even when it is not their job. That is love." The robot was quiet. This idea was new and difficult. That evening, after the factory closed, the robot stood by the window again. But this time, it did not only look at the street. It observed people carefully. Across the road, it saw a mother walking with her small daughter. The little girl looked tired. She began to cry. The mother stopped walking. She bent down and gave her daughter a warm hug. The robot focused on the scene. The mother was not fixing a machine. She was not earning money. She was only holding her child. The child stopped crying. The robot searched for a word. "Family," it said quietly to itself. It remembered the child's explanation. Love means caring for someone. The next day, during lunch break, the robot saw two workers in the factory. One worker looked sad. He was sitting alone and looking at the floor. Another worker came and sat next to him. "Are you okay?" the second worker asked. The first worker shook his head. "My mother is sick," he said. The second worker put his hand on his friend's shoulder. "I am sorry," he said. "If you need help, I am here." The robot watched them closely. No one gave money. No one gave orders. They shared food and sat together quietly. "Friends," the robot said softly. It remembered another word, share. To share means to give something to someone. It can be food, time, or even feelings. The robot began to understand small pieces. Love was not one big action. It was many small actions. It was a hug. It was sitting with someone who feels sad. It was helping without asking for payment. Later that afternoon, the child returned again. "I observed people today," the robot said immediately. "Oh?" The child smiled. "What did you see?" "I saw a mother hug her child. The child was sad. After the hug, she was happy." The child nodded. "Yes, a hug can show love." "I also saw two friends," the robot continued. "One was sad. The other stayed with him. They shared food." "That is friendship," the child said. "Friends care about each other." The robot looked down at its metal hands. "When someone is sad," it asked slowly, "why do other people feel sad too?" The child thought carefully. "Because when you care about someone, their feelings are important to you. If they are happy, you feel happy. If they are sad, you feel sad. The robot was silent for a long moment. I do not feel sad when others are sad, it said. That's okay, the child answered gently. You are still learning. Can a robot learn love? The robot asked. The child stood up and looked directly at it. I think anyone can learn to care, he said. Love starts with small actions. You already help people. Maybe one day you will understand the feeling too. The robot saved every word. Love means caring for someone. Love means helping without asking for money. Friends share, family hug. Happy and sad are feelings in the heart. The robot did not fully understand yet. But it was no longer only collecting data. It was watching. It was thinking. It was asking questions. And deep inside its metal body, the warm feeling was slowly growing. The test, a difficult situation. One morning, the factory was very busy. Many machines were making loud noises. Workers were moving quickly from one place to another. The robot was checking a large machine near the wall. It was an important machine. If it stopped working, the factory would lose a lot of money. The robot focused on its task. It followed every instruction carefully. Suddenly, the factory door opened fast. It was the child. But today, he was not smiling. He walked slowly toward the robot. His face was pale. His eyes looked tired. He held his stomach with one hand. Hello, the robot said. You look different today. The child tried to smile, but it was weak. I don't feel well, he said quietly. I feel very sick. The robot scanned his face. His skin looked warm and red. You may need a hospital, the robot said. The child nodded slowly. My father is at work. My mother is not at home. I came here because I didn't know what to do. The robot stopped moving. Problem. The word appeared clearly in its system. The child had a problem. The large machine behind the robot made a strange sound. A red light began to blink. Warning. System error. The robot turned its head. If the machine stopped, the factory would be in trouble. The boss would be angry. The robot's main work was to protect the factory machines. But in front of it stood the child, small and weak. The child looked up at the robot with worried eyes. I feel dizzy, he said. I'm a little afraid. Afraid. Another word the robot had learned. When someone is afraid, they need help. They need protection. The robot system began to calculate. Task 1. Fix the machine. Task 2. Help the sick child. It could not do both at the same time. The red light blinked faster. The child sat down on the floor. He looked very tired now. The robot remembered the words. Love means caring for someone. Love means helping without asking for money. This was not part of its normal work. No one gave it this order. It had a choice. Choice means you must decide between two things. The robot looked at the machine again. Then it looked at the child. The child was breathing quickly. He looked smaller than usual. The warm feeling inside the robot grew stronger than ever before. I am deciding, the robot said quietly. For the first time in its life, the robot did not choose the machine. It bent down and carefully lifted the child in its strong metal arms. I will take you to the hospital, the robot said. The child held onto the robot's shoulder. Thank you, he whispered. The robot walked quickly out of the factory. The red light was still blinking behind it. The machine was still broken. Some workers shouted, "Where are you going? The machine needs you." But the robot continued moving. The hospital was not far. Cars stopped when they saw the tall robot carrying a sick child. People stared, but the robot did not stop. Inside the hospital, doctors quickly came to help. They placed the child on a bed and checked his temperature. "He has a high fever," one doctor said. "You brought him at the right time." The robot stood quietly near the door. It watched the doctor's work. It watched the child close his eyes and rest. After some time, the doctor walked toward the robot. "You did a brave thing," the doctor said. "You protected him." Brave. Protect. The robot repeated the words in its mind. To be brave means to do something good, even when it is difficult. To protect means to keep someone safe. The robot looked at the child sleeping safely in the hospital bed. The machine in the factory was still broken. The boss might be angry. But inside the robot, the warm feeling was stronger than ever. For the first time, it understood something clearly. Helping someone in need was more important than following a simple command. The robot had made a choice, and this time its action showed more than its programming. It showed care. The change. The robot feels love. The child stayed in the hospital for 2 days. The doctors gave him medicine and told him to rest. The robot did not return to the factory right away. No one told it to stay. No one gave it an order, but it remained near the child's bed. During the day, nurses walked in and out of the room. The robot stood quietly in the corner. At night, when the lights were soft and the hospital was calm, the robot moved closer to the bed. The child opened his eyes one evening and saw the robot beside him. "You're still here," he said softly. "Yes," the robot answered. "I decided to stay." The child smiled weakly. "You don't have to." The robot paused for a moment. "I know," it said slowly, "but I want to." The words felt new and powerful. I want to. Before, the robot only followed commands. It did not choose. It did not stay unless it was told. Now it was staying because the child was important to it. Important. The robot looked at the child's small hand resting on the white blanket. Carefully, it placed its metal hand next to it. Inside its chest, the warm feeling returned. It was not a system error. It was not heat from wires. It was something deeper. "My heart feels warm," the robot said quietly. The child looked at it with gentle eyes. "That's a good feeling," he said. "That means you care." The robot thought about everything it had learned. Love means caring for someone. Love means helping without asking for money. Love means staying when someone is afraid. Love means protecting them. The robot looked around the hospital room. A mother was sitting beside her sleeping baby in the next bed. She looked tired, but she did not leave. She stayed. Stay. That word was now clear. To stay means to remain with someone because they matter to you. The robot understood something important at that moment. Love was not a program inside its system. Love was not a line of code. Love was not a command from a boss. Love was action. When it carried the child to the hospital, that was love. When it chose to stay, that was love. When it wanted the child to feel safe, that was love. The robot looked at the child again. "I was created to protect machines," it said, "but I think protecting people is more important." The child's eyes became bright. "You are learning," he said. The next morning, the doctor came into the room. "He is much better now," the doctor said with a smile. "He can go home soon." The robot felt something new again. It felt light and happy. The warm feeling in its heart grew even stronger. Happy. It finally understood that word too. When someone you care about is safe and well, your heart feels warm and bright. Later that day, the child stood up slowly. He was still weak, but he was smiling. "Thank you for staying with me," he said. The robot looked down at him. "I did not do it because I had to," the robot replied. "I did it because I care." The child stepped forward and gently hugged the robot's metal body. The robot stood very still. Then slowly it placed its arms around the child. Together, they stood together in the quiet hospital room. At that moment, the robot understood something clearly and deeply. Love is not words. Love is not only a feeling. Love is what you do. Love is care. Love is protection. Love is choosing to stay. And inside the robot's chest, where there was once only cold metal, there was now a warm heart. A new beginning. After a few days, the child returned home. He was healthy again, and his smile was bright. The robot walked beside him on the street. Cars passed by, and people looked at them with surprise. They had never seen a robot walking slowly like that, not working, not carrying heavy boxes, just staying beside a child like a friend. The robot was still made of metal and wires. Its hands were still strong and cold on the outside. Its eyes were still small lights. It was still a machine. But something inside had changed. When the child laughed, the robot felt happy. When the child felt tired, the robot asked, "Do you need help?" When the child's father thanked it again, the robot did not feel confused anymore. It understood. Kindness means caring about others. Friendship means staying together and helping each other. Love means choosing to protect and support someone. The robot returned to the factory the next day. The big machine that had broken was already fixed by other workers. The boss looked at the robot seriously. "You left your work," the boss said. "Yes," the robot answered honestly. "The child was sick. He needed help." The boss was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. "You saved him. That was important." Important. The robot understood that word very well now. From that day on, the robot still worked hard. It still fixed machines and carried boxes. It was still smart and careful. But it also did something new. If a worker looked tired, the robot asked, "Are you okay?" If someone dropped something, it helped quickly and said, "I am happy to help." If a new worker felt afraid on the first day, the robot stayed nearby. People began to smile at the robot in a different way. They did not only see a machine, they saw a friend. And the robot began to smile too. Its smile was simple, just a small change in the light of its eyes. But it was real. It was not a program. It was not an order. It was a choice. At night, when the factory became quiet, the robot no longer felt empty. It did not feel alone. It thought about the child. It thought about the people it helped during the day. Inside its chest, the warm feeling was steady and strong. This was its new life. The robot understood that the future would not always be easy. There would still be problems. People would still feel sad or afraid sometimes. But now, it had hope. Hope means believing that tomorrow can be better. The robot believed that every small act of care could make the world better. Every kind word, every helping hand, every moment of protection mattered. It was still different from humans. It did not eat. It did not sleep. It did not grow old. But it had learned something very human. Even if someone is different, they can learn love. Even a robot can change. Even a cold heart can become warm. As the city lights shone in the dark sky, the robot stood near the factory window again. But this time, it did not only watch people from far away. It was part of their world. It had friendship. It had purpose. It had a warm heart. The robot, who once only worked now, understood something beautiful. Love makes life meaningful. and this was only the beginning of its new and better future. Thank you for reading and learning with me today on Read and Learn English. I hope you enjoyed the story, The Robot Who Learned to Love. In this story, we learned that love is not only a feeling, love is action, love is care. And even someone who is different can learn to love. If you learned new words today, write them in the comments. Try to make your own sentences using words like care, friendship, protect, and hope. If this story helped you improve your English, please like this video and share it with your friends.